And the thing that I'm telling people for the most part is I don't want your religion. I don't want your help. I just want you to leave my people alone.
And then he can stand on his own 2 feet like others. Then if the black man, the black leadership, who has access to all of this money and has all of these degrees today, can't use his talent and his know-how to set up business opportunities, job opportunities, housing opportunities for the black people, the same as the white leaders have done for white people, then these black leaders need to get off the boat. They're not leading our people toward any kind of independence, but they're using their positions and their education and their talent to exploit our people worse than the slave master did during slavery.
You know, they always tell black people to get their stuff together, but every time we get it together, you burn it down. Or you find a way to put fraud on top of it.
There can be no black-white unity until there is first some black unity.
The 1970s ushered in a new era of black nationalism within America, built on the memories of police dogs and fire hoses and of fallen leaders. It was an altogether new and different mindset.
We're not going to take the crap we took in the 1960s. We're no longer capitulating, we're no longer surrendering, we're standing up for ourselves. The 1970s was about a re-articulation of blackness. How do we recuperate and recover blackness in its pure form? So the afros, the focus on the black nose, the big black lips, the big black hips. Black is beautiful, even Jane.
Out of the bedrock of 60s disenchantment grew the Black Panther Party. Founded in 1966 in Oakland, California, the Panther Party came into its own in the 70s, offering intelligence and articulation to the anger of the urban condition. Bobby Seale and Huey Newton were the founders that gave it direction.
I know I can stand with this gun in my hand only 7-point-something feet from you because I've read the law.
Martyrs like Fred Hampton gave it a unified purpose. At the same time, the party was beginning to unravel from internal and external forces. The message of equality and unity was quickly getting lost as it became every man for himself.
They believed in all the people having power and equally sharing access to material wealth.
For the temporary convenience of the present. To continue this long trend is to guarantee tremendous social, cultural, political, and economic upheavals.
Then what you get in the 80s is the political economy of crack. And the political economy of crack means that we began to have crack crimes, crack addictions. People began to organize their lives in these enclaves of urban terror called ghettos.
Reaganomics, Jesse Jackson said, took from the poor and gave to the rich. Its vengeful indifference began to splinter the urban community, which bore the brunt of the early 80s recession. Crack had found a home.
Whether you believe the San Jose Mercury or not, whether you believe the conspiracy theory or not, the reality is that the ghetto was drenched with that. The government turned a deaf ear, if you will, and a blind eye to the enormous drenching of these urban terrains by this crack economy, which created hostility in black and brown families. As one person said, I think it was Joseph Marshall, crack cocaine did what 300 years of slavery could never do. It undermined and subverted the integrity of the black family by virtue of creating a commodity over which black people were literally killing each other to get access to. In one sense, the drug industry and the government turning its blind eye fed the rise of the prison industrial complex. The prison industrial complex means that black and brown people are being incarcerated at disproportionate rates to the larger white population. There's a culture of death that circulates in the ghetto that's very destructive in many ways. The attraction, the addiction, the fascination with the limit, with death, with the end, and with the closing of the infinite by the finite acts of homicide, of suicide, that are so rampant in the culture, both metaphorically and literally.
But you know, there used to be, after the World War I, black communities were thriving in America. In fact, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there was a community called Greenwood, which they used to call the Black Wall Street. And they had things in their community that the whites didn't have. They had indoor plumbing. Whites didn't have it yet. And they would keep the money circulating in their own community to where a dollar got spent 100 times before it left their community. Well, the whites got sick of that shit. And they burned down their fucking 35 square blocks. They burned it down. 300 people died in 1922. So that really happened in Tulsa. They eliminated and that happened all over the country. That's just one example. There's an 8-page article I just
mentioned the busings, for instance. See, That's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen happen. See, my family, as an example, was a part of the family that owned the only black bus line that you've ever had in America. The only black chartered bus line you've ever had in America. And that was in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. That was a safe bus company. We didn't have just one bus, 3 buses, 5 buses, or 10 buses. We had over 500 buses. And our buses didn't just service the black neighborhoods. They serviced the black neighborhoods and the white neighborhoods, period. Mm-hmm. We put the white bus company out of business there. I mean, that was a Duke Power Company. Duke Power Company, named just like Duke University, and Duke Electric Company. We put them out of business because we ran a very competitive bus line. Now, our bus line was vertically integrated for black folk, which gave us a power base, a wealth base, an employment base. We hired our own people. We bought our own buses, repaired our own buses, operated our own buses, had our own drivers, our own mechanics, and we serviced both neighborhoods. But what put us out of business was not our inability for us to compete. It was the fact that blacks decided to integrate down in Montgomery. And when Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks integrated the buses there, rather than going in and buying the bus line from the whites and taking it over and operating it under black control, they decided that it was much better in the context of integration, which was social. Let's just socialize with whites. If whites are sitting on the front of the bus and we sit on the back, let's move up front with them and let's integrate with them. Let's intermix and make it a social issue. And so black folk then moved from the back of the bus to the front of the bus. Like, who really cares?
There is a growing number.
But let me finish the point now. Here's what happened now. When that movement moved up to North Carolina, and came to North Carolina, the blacks in North Carolina says, we also want to sit on the front of the bus. And in North Carolina, we said, but we don't have any white buses you can sit on the front of the white bus. They said, well, why don't you all get some white buses so we can sit on the front of them? So our bus company went out of business. So then they brought in white buses. Now whites run the bus line. And the same thing happened to our black cab companies and our black movie theaters and our black restaurants. Everything black went out of existence because black folk see integration as being a social issue, and somehow they feel if they get closer to the white society, they're elevating their status, and they're not. They're disintegrating.
You said earlier that you felt that integration was one of the worst things that could have happened to black folks.
It is.
And you speak a language now that certainly, at a minimum, talks about a total reliance on self.
Yep.
So does that equate to a form of separatism?
Well, if you had a child, Rock, that stayed in your house and wouldn't leave for 500 years, right? Would you respect that child? If you know that child, in order for that child to live, it needed you. If it was hurt, you need their food, their electricity, their hospitals, everything about them. It doesn't really matter what that child says to you, does it? Because they have to do what? Come back to you. Right. See, the thing is, before we can be respected by anyone, everything that I'm telling you, the answer to everything that you asked me today is self. Religion, socially, business-wise, it doesn't matter. Until we get ourselves together, it really doesn't matter. It is all about self.
We need to start figuring out another way. You got to start peeping the game. The game is the game of life. You got to start peeping how they're doing it. And if you see it, you can see the little signs that says that the guns are turning away from, Europe and Russia and Iran and Iraq, and they're turning to us.
Seem like we all been fooled, you know what I'm saying? It's just, do we really know what's going on? And
soon the government is going to make the young black male and the young Hispanic male the prime target of all their resources, and all their jail sentences and all their powerful weapons and technology will be the enemy. So unless we stop it now, regulate it, we're going to end up crashing against a wall. So if there's a way that you can get out of the game before it's too late, get out the game before it's too late. If you're going to be in the game and you commit yourself fully, then, do what you can to give back to the community that you're raping. It's always going to be drug dealing. I understand it's always going to be violence, but we just need to regulate it so that we can at least have like a peaceful zone where we can all be cool, or else we're going to all die. We're going to all be destroyed. And it's cool to talk about it, to recognize it, but I mean, how many times can we say the same thing? You know what I mean? I know it's a way for us to get out the hood, but what do we run into? You know what I mean? Once we get out the hood, shit, they don't want us over there. I didn't create thug life. I diagnosed it. Just like if a doctor says, this is the AIDS virus, he didn't make AIDS. He diagnosed it. You know what I mean? He won't be held responsible for every AIDS case. You know, if anything, he's bringing you information on maybe finding a cure. I felt as though that's the same thing I did for Thug Life.
We should own and operate and control the economy of our community. You would never find, you can't open up a black store in a white community. White man won't even patronize you. And he's not wrong. He got sense enough to look out for himself. And you who don't have sense enough to look out for yourself. The white man is too intelligent to let someone else come and gain control of the economy of his community. But you will let anybody come in and control the economy of your community. Control the housing, control the education, control the jobs, control the businesses under the pretext that you want to integrate. No, you're out of your mind. We have to become involved in a program of re-education to educate our people into the importance of knowing that when you spend your dollar out of the community in which you live, the community in which you spend your money becomes richer and richer. The community out of which you take your money becomes poorer and poorer. And because these Negroes who have been misled and misguided are breaking their necks to take their money and spend it with the man. The man is becoming richer and richer, and you're becoming poorer and poorer. And then what happens? The community in which you live becomes a slum. It becomes a ghetto. The conditions become run down. And then you have the audacity to complain about poor housing in a run-down community. Why, you run it down yourself when you take your dollar out. And you and I are in a double trap, because not only do we lose by taking our money someplace else and spending it, when we try and spend it in our own community, we're trapped because we haven't had sense enough to set up stores and control the businesses of our community. The man who's controlling the stores in our community is a man who doesn't look like we do. He's a man who doesn't even live in the community. So you and I, even when we try and spend our money in the block where we live or the area where we live, we're spending it with a man who, when the sun goes down, takes that basket full of money in another part of the town. So we're trapped, double trapped, triple trapped. Anywhere we go, we find that we're trapped. And every kind of solution that someone comes up with is just another trap. Shows our people the importance of setting up these little stores and developing them and expanding them into larger operations. Woolworth didn't start out big like they are today. They started out with a dime store and expanded and expanded and expanded until today they're all over the country and all over the world, and they're getting some of everybody's money. Now this, what you and I in General Motors, the same way, didn't start out like it is. It started out just a little rat race type operation, and it expanded and expanded until today it's where it is right now. And you and I have to make a start. And the best place to start is right in the community where we live. So our people not only have to be re-educated to the importance of supporting black business, but the black man himself has to be made aware of the importance of going into business. And once you and I go into business, we own and operate at least the businesses in our community. What we will be doing is developing a situation wherein we will actually be able to create employment for the people in the community. And once you can create some employment in the community where you live, it will eliminate the necessity of you and me having to act ignorantly and disgracefully, boycotting and picketing some cracker someplace else, trying to beg him for a job. Anytime you have to rely upon your enemy for a job,